3 reasons why we women struggle with boundaries. The question I get asked all the time for so many women is that, January, boundary is just one of those things I'm just not really good at. Well, first of all, you're not just going to be really good at boundaries. Nobody is born good or bad at boundaries. Why is that so important? Because we think we have this belief system that we're born good or not good. Therefore, we don't even think of actually training that part of us. We have a belief system that just says, well, I'm just not really good at it. And even though it's it's kind of minor, which is deceptive, it becomes a belief system. I'm just not really good at boundaries. And our beliefs determine our behavior. Scientifically, our beliefs shape the way we make choices because it's actually in our subconscious conditioning. So it's so important for us to be extremely mindful about the labels, the thoughts, the beliefs that we are wiring into our brain neurologically. It's physically a wire. So when I teach women in our class, it's like language. How did you learn that this was a cup, right? Because for years and years and decades, through the process of repetition, and somebody told you that was a cup, you now know it's a cup. So if I tell you that this is a banana, you're going to think, oh, that's crazy, January, right? Because neurologically, it's a physical wiring, right? That you realize that's how babies are learned. Babies are born with 100 billion neurons, and they make neurological connections. Oh, that's a cup. That's a cup. And 1,000 times over, that's a cup. A baby now understands that that's a cup. That's how we learn language. That's how we learn how to speak. Now, in the same process, that's how you learn a new language as an adult. You literally neurologically rewire connections that allows you to formulate speaking Spanish or French. Now, backing to boundaries, right? If we have really believed ourselves to be bad at boundaries and we constantly wire it over and over again through the process of repetition, I'm just not really good boundaries. I'm not just really good boundaries. Words then eventually become flesh because that actually becomes a wiring. Think about that. How we form beliefs, just like how we form language, is through a neurological process, literally in our brain. So now that belief system is so entrenched that even if we wanted to, we really struggle to. Because if you think about, if I told you, okay, January, this is a banana, you're going to say, no, it is not. I'm going to say, actually, you're really good at boundaries. Boundary is just a skill. You're going to say, no, I'm not. Not because you consciously want to, but because it's literally a wiring. So what you need to do is you need to cut that wire and you need to replace it. Okay. That's how we called rewiring. Now let's go back to boundaries. So we actually create labels that we're just not good at boundaries, or we're just good at boundaries. So the first thing you need to acknowledge is that boundary is a rewiring process. Okay. Now I'm going to tell you that a lot of women I talk to will just tell me, January, I have read all the boundary books. Okay. I hear that all the time. I struggle with boundaries and I read every single boundary book and I'm still not really good with boundaries. Okay. So let's be very, very clear. So first, I'll give you 3 reasons why we struggle with boundaries, and it doesn't matter how many books we've read. Number 1, without a clarity of your vision or your goals and your dreams, boundary is going to always be a struggle. Why? Because you have no reason or metric to say no. Okay. Very, very important. If I don't know that in the next 6 months, I'm supposed to be finishing a book, because that's actually my summit dream, is what we call in the women's school. It's our summit dream. Then I could easily say, yeah, let's just, let's watch another Netflix movie. Let's go to another event, because there's no clarity in my next summit goal. Clarity actually eliminates so much of our anxiety and boundary issues. So the first thing about boundary is that we need to be crystal clear about the direction of where we want to go, right? Because if we're not clear, then we don't know why we need to say no. Now, the second part about that is a kind of a twofold, is that you need to know who you are, what your standards are. As a woman, who are you trying to become? So every single woman should always be intentional about that elevated version of herself, which means in the next 6 months, you know who you're trying to become. Okay, that's the image I have January. January is actually peaceful. January is actually really good at organizing her drawer or whatever it is that you were trying to design. This is what we call woman by design. Because if I don't know that I'm working towards that kind of woman, about a woman that communicates her boundaries effectively, then there is no standard for me to actually hold myself to. So it's so important that you're intentional about designing the woman you're choosing to become so that when the boundary is vulnerable, you can say no because your metric is the woman you're trying to become. So let's just say the woman you're trying to become is somebody who is really ordered with her routine so that she can get up early in the morning and exercise and eat healthy and not just kind of shove herself in the morning and eat crappy food. And then her brain is kind of foggy because she's not intentional about creating a morning routine, right? So now you're creating a standard that you're a woman who honors and values her routine and her rhythm of life. So how does that boundary become really easy? Somebody says, well, I'd love for you to come out tonight. And, I haven't seen you in a long time. Let's just come out. Now you can say, I would love to, but really, I'm really trying to honor my body and what I'm trying to eat. So that means I need to wake up early tomorrow. So I'm going to have to say no. Why? Because you know who you're trying to become. Very important skill set. Now, the other two reasons, right? There was a twofold reason for that. Your dream and who you become, which is both a dream because we should be dreaming about the elevated version of ourselves as a woman. Now, the next thing is the skill. Boundary is a twofold skill set. Number one, you need to know you and be hyper aware of your line, which means you need to know where you need to say no. You need to be actually constantly hyper aware. You're always vigilant. You never kind of just like, no, you're always thinking, okay, what's my line here? What's my no? How does this affect my day? How does this affect the integrated woman? This is why in the women's school, we actually make dreams based on the integrated woman. We check our self-image, our health, optimal health, mind, emotion, body, and spirit, our friendship, our intimacy, our contribution, our environment, our wealth, and our family. We have to always be hyper aware of the integrated woman. Right. So when we actually have to check our boundaries and what our no is, we're like, I'd love to, but actually right now my family needs me. I just had this woman really gave me a hard time about saying no to her because she wanted to get together. She wanted, I didn't know she wanted to reach out to me, which was awesome. I'm so grateful. But I have 7 children and my work is, demanding. So I'm very fierce about my no. And she really gave me a hard time about it. She's like, well, you don't value people. And, you make, I didn't really know her, but she basically just said, you make me feel worthless when I say, when I invite you and you say no. Well, I could really take that and say, oh my gosh, I didn't know her. It was so, kind of a random acquaintance. I would have loved to. And to me, my script, which isn't just like a script that we want to say, is, I'd love to, but I really can't because I have a 5-month-old baby. I have 6 children and I'm coaching thousands of women. So I'm so limited in my time. I would love to, but I just simply can't. And she really took that as her, I was kind of doubting her worth, which, by the way, it's really important for us to understand that our self-worth is objective. Apart from if somebody hangs out with you or not, or if I think you're great or not. This is why we need to understand that our worth is never changing and never contingent on anything else but the fact that we're divinely created and uniquely and irreplaceable woman and human being. Okay. So that's a side note. So the reason why I say that is because I could have just like torn myself because she kind of made me feel small about the fact that, oh, you made me feel so, my worth you should hang out with me so that I can feel as though I'm valuable. I said, I would love to, but really my boundary is my priority. So it's a skill set because I needed to know what my no was. The second part of that is that I need to communicate my no effectively. I need to know how to communicate my no effectively. This is why Boundaries books is only good as it is information, but you actually need to put it into practice, an action plan. This is where scripts come in. We need to know not only our line of no, but then how to say no and to communicate it effectively, respectably, without guilt or shame. Because what happens is we could say no and we're ruminating thoughts and we're like, oh my gosh, I'm a horrible person, blah, 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 blah. All the I am critical statements that we talk to ourselves because we don't have clear boundaries. We don't know who we're trying to be and we don't have a summit dream. So what happens? It's called drama and it becomes draining and it becomes just, I would say an energy zap instead of us giving life to what we're really called to do today and every single day of our life. We get caught up in boundary issues because of lack of clarity, lack of skill, and lack of scripts. Those are really major reasons why we struggle with boundaries, right? So you as a woman have an obligation to be very clear about the boundaries you set because you are here on a God-given mission, meaning there is something that you're here to do, to fulfill. Could be in your family life, could be out of your family life, it could be to invent something, it could be to help an orphanage. Whatever that is has everything to do with your boundary skill and a whole lot of symphony of other skills. But that is an important skill set that actually gives birth to your call, which your call is a direct proportion of your fulfillment and your contribution to humanity. It is all connected, right? So my gentle encouragement to you ladies is that don't dabble on boundaries and don't label yourself as good or bad on boundaries. Get on the wagon of forming your boundaries, right? It's like you get a clay and you form this clay, right, to a specific form. Well, you get this woman and you form her into a specific form, the woman by design. And that woman that you're trying to design, one facet of that is a woman who is firm with her boundaries, right? And clear with her boundaries. So the boundary issue is not just simply, oh, I've got a boundary issue. Well, yes, it robs you of your peace of mind. Yes, it robs you of quality of relationship. Yes, it robs you of drama. I mean, it robs you of anxiety. No, yeah, peace. It robs you of peace because it leads you to anxiety and drama. But more importantly, it robs you of your call because we end up fighting the wrong war when we don't have clear boundaries. Ladies, my invitation to you is check out the Women's School because in our trainings, we get very practical about skill and script building and crystallizing our dreams. I believe in this work so much because I have seen women give birth to their dreams and to their God-given mission time and time again. And I am seeing women come alive through this program because once we're clear about what we are here for, and it's not this crazy, like, oh my gosh, this is my life's purpose. No, what's the next summit dream? What's the next mountain I am intended to climb, right? When we give birth to that, we see women come alive and without compromising every part of their arena. Because our dreams should never deplete us in different parts of our life. The only reason it depletes us, is because we have no skills and scripts and clarity of the integrated woman that actually we need to be hyper aware as we live our day-to-day moments and achieve those summit dreams that is really deep in our heart, right? The dreams that we have, the desires that we have in our heart were given to us as a bait to what we are called to do. Because how else would I know what I'm here for if it's not through the desires of my heart, right? So the boundary is a necessary skill step for you women to give birth to your call. This is January Donovan with the Women's School. Ladies, don't dabble in your formation. Be brave, be intentional, and go all in. January Donovan, your friend and guide with the Women's School, cheering you on to change the world.